Good afternoon. I'm MJ from Lioness Publications, and we're doing a sum up of the week and actually maybe a few other videos too. And this is in the 10th house briefing. So what we're first going to be looking at is a video I did back in April 27th. And this one was on election 2026. And this was manipulation, deception, and aftermath. So just a few things that came out in this is that Pluto right now is breaking away foundations, and that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be doing this right up into next year. This is something that I said earlier in the year was going to be happening, and it is happening. What is it breaking foundations on? On a home, on communities. It's in effect taking people away and locking them up. And it's also going to be hitting directly against people of the United States. So this won't be limited to just immigrants. So this is a way of manipulating the people of the United States. So it's a way for the administration to make people afraid. Now, bringing in the military is a big deal because that means the military is now against the people of the United States. Now, as we've already seen, and this is coming up, and I noted this earlier, we're going to start to have manipulation of that election in 2026. It started with Texas with the redistricting. Okay. Now, that video was made before Texas was planning to do this. So that is important to note. Now, we also have the very likelihood of a recession between now and 2026. Recession because of the tariffs. Trump was on and off with the tariffs, which means they were on for a while, then they're off, which means companies were sort of trying to eat some of the tariffs so it wasn't coming down to the consumers. What's going to happen now, though, is companies can't eat it anymore. And the tariffs have been put into place for most countries. So that means consumers are going to be hit with these prices. And it's not the companies that are getting hit. It's not the other countries. It's the consumers in the United States. So they are paying an additional tax in addition to the tax they pay anyway. So that's not good for the 2026 election. Now, that was the first video that I did on 2026. Second video was on 8/11 of 2026. And this is Entrenched Power and Unpleasant Truths. So I know everyone wants to think that, oh, all this stuff is going to go away. Trump will go away. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen like that. I mean, he might get sick next month, and we may have something where he's not able to hold power, but he's still going to be the president. But even that, it doesn't fix what's happening. What we have is one party that doesn't want to give up power. And when that happens and they're currently in power, they're going to take every single trick in the book to try and stay in power. So what does that mean? Well, it means things like they're going to go after the people of the United States. They're going to make you afraid. So in effect, they're going to bring out things like the military, which we're seeing already in the District of Columbia. National Guard is coming out. Now, some of this in March of next year, we might see a little bit coming up this year, but around March of next year into like April and then July, we're going to see a lot of things sort of coming up. And aggression, in effect, and we might actually have skirmishes, civil unrest, but we might also have corruption showing up. Going to be a lot of tension, a lot of confrontations. And I'm looking that probably around July 4th is going to be a significant time. And what's going to happen is that we're going to have entrenched power. We're going to have the GOP having power, and they don't want to give it up. They're going to do everything they can. And some of it may not be legal. But then the Supreme Court, which is supposed to fix things like this, may sort of turn the other cheek. And that's a problem that needs to be dealt with at some point, too. And that's the corruption in the Supreme Court. So it's not, this has actually brought out a lot of the cracks and the fissures in the way the United States works. And it's something that if we ever come out of this, that we need to sort of say, we need to fix these things. Okay? We need to get better rules for the court system. We need to be able to have the court system literally remove the military from the president, if need be. If he's not listening to the court orders, he needs to be made to listen. And the way to do that is just take away the military, take away his power. Justice, in effect, hasn't provided justice. So that's an issue that we've been dealing with. Now, we're going to see more of the government, specifically the Trump administration, going after the people of the United States. So when it comes to, actually, let me do one more. The 2026 election, this was actually the solar arc. This is the power against the people. So in this case, we talked about this video, and this was on 8/12. We're looking at September of this year, and this might have to do with things that happen in Virginia, if that's going to happen. It's people trust in the government starts breaking down. There may be corruption that comes to light. So it's going to be the first of many crises that start to show up. This will be from now until the election. And a big crisis is going to be right around July 4th of next year, because that's going to be the 250th anniversary of the country. So that will probably be a flashpoint. And expect that force is going to come down on the people very hard. Now, 2026 is a year that even when we have elections, and I think we might still have elections, but just because we have elections doesn't mean it's going to turn around next year. So I think people have an impression that everything will be fixed. It won't be. That's not the way it's going to work. Now, what will happen is in 2027, you're going to see that new people are going to be taking office, and there might be some national pride surging up. So that can give you some hope that maybe Democrats or independents started to come in enough force that they have the ability to tamper down some of the things that are happening. So in effect, it's sort of like, okay, got something. So we can live again to fight another day, which is the 2028 election. But that doesn't mean the justice system is fixed. That's something that's got to be put on the agenda, that they have to fix it. I have ideas on how to fix it, but I'm not an expert. Get the lawyers in there and see what they say. So with that, where is the power here? The power is going to be with the GOP. It's going to be with the GOP right up until probably 2026. Democrats can get a little power, but the big thing is the election may turn such that Democrats have enough power, maybe not to completely stop everything that's going on, but at least hinder it and keep us in the race, keep them in the race until 2028. And by the way, I'm actually a libertarian. I tend to vote either Democratic or Republican, depending on what the platform is. In this case, like a lot of other people, I'm voting against Trump. That's what I've been voting against. Now let's take a look at another thing that's been happening, and that's the District of Columbia. So this is the first administration's foray into power against the people. And it's not going to be the last. So this is actual aggression against these people. They are stopping them. They are literally they took over the police force, and the police force, up until they got a change in order from the court system, was reporting directly to someone in the administration. Now, District of Columbia, if you're not aware, is a district that has a lot of haves from the people working in the government, and a lot of have-nots. So a lot of people doing sort of service-type jobs, lower paid service jobs. So you're really pitting the haves against the have-nots. A lot of these have-nots, unfortunately, may not have homes, stable homes, and they're now being told, literally, their belongings, everything else is being picked up and tossed in the garbage, and they're being told they have to go to shelters. What happens if there are no shelters? What happens? Well, so this is something that's going to be thrown in the people's face. It's like, where's the justice here? Now, this is probably going to bring up some corruption that's been going on. Some of the money that DC was supposed to get, I think, has been pulled back. So that might be looked at in a bigger area. And it might actually start pulling to, what's going on there. Big takeaway here is that we've got the military that are bringing force against the people. So who's got the power here? It's the military. And they shouldn't have it. The people should have the power. So, could that change? Yeah, it could change. I don't think it's going to change before the elections, though. Next thing, we had a video we did on 8/5, August 5th. And this was a question one asking whether MAGA believes Trump when he says there's no there to Epstein. Now, surprisingly, MAGA is this was part of what was really important to them. They really thought this thing with Epstein, because he's a pedophiliac, was really important to, stand up to go against people like this. And Trump actually made it a big deal in his campaign, saying he's going to, he got his people all wound up. Well, we're going to get, all this information released and this and that. But MAGA's not getting the information. In fact, some of his followers, MAGA, are actually saying things differently to their people, to their followers. So they're going against what Trump is saying, but they're saying it nicely, so Trump is not taking too much of an offense on this. But what the chart showed is that, no, MAGA doesn't believe him. Whether it's a big deal is something else, though. So MAGA may actually say, well, this is just one thing. So maybe we're just going to let this go. Now, it does mean that Trump is sort of starting to fray a little bit around the edges. So some MAGA are going to say, no, I don't believe him. This affects everything. And most of them are probably going to say, I don't believe him, but he's still doing other things that are good. So if those other things start to be not so good, then you have someone sort of saying, well, okay, maybe time to move on. So who's got the power here? Power is in MAGA's hands. I think they're going to use it to sort of say, okay, we're willing to let this go, but we need to see what else you're going to do. So it's not in Trump's hands. He's not able to turn this. It's going to be his people that are going to turn it. Now, let's take a quick note on the election in Virginia for 2025. When I first started to do this one, I was going to do the state and the two candidates at the same time. But then what I was seeing in Virginia's chart was a little daunting. I was seeing a lot of things that suggested to me that there may be some type of confrontation. And this is coming up in September. So I thought it deserved its own video. Now, this was done on 8/13, and it's Virginia Election 2025, Part 1. So this is going to be right around September 7th, when we may have some type of confrontation. So it's aggressive. It's an unpredictable use of power, challenges to authority, explosive tensions going on. So there may be something that happens in the state that causes some type of protests, some type of unrest. Now, it doesn't stop at that point. It continues, and at the end of September, we actually have the power pushing on the military. So it could be, in this case, we've got things like the White House administration, or maybe even the state, actually bringing in National Guard or something like that. And this is actually going up right around to the end of November. So this would be happening during the elections, which was a little concerning to me. In fact, right now I'm going through all the other states to see what else is going on during this time of the elections. Even though the other states may not be having elections, I want to see how this is affecting them. So I foresee that there may be military going on the streets. And again, we'll see in September if this happens. And it's because the people are moving against the foundation of power. So they're bringing up confrontations. Their crowds are going to be expressing their displeasure. And they're going to want to try to limit the state from doing something. It's hard to say what, because Virginia right now has a GOP governor. And it's hard to say if there's anything in the plans, but it could also be because the elections become very supercharged. So who's the winner here in Virginia? The power right now in Virginia is with the state, and specifically the people in the state. But that can shift very quickly to the military that's brought in, which is why I really want to watch this. And again, it could be sometimes these configurations that show up sort of dissolve into nothingness and nothing happens. Sometimes they don't. So I want to see what happens on this before I actually call the election for Virginia, or really for the other state. Now, we have two candidates in Virginia. The Democrat is Spanger, and the Republican is Winsome Earl. Now, what I'm seeing here is that, in general, the Democrat is going to have a little bit better ability to connect with people. Literally has some personal magnetism, able to communicate effectively. So I can see that platform, the Democratic platform, is in line to do a better job. Versus Winsome Earl seems to be having trouble getting down to what matters to people. So she could change that, and she could do a better presentation to people. But the GOP seemed to be stuck in a circle of trying to support Trump. And even though that may not work well in the local elections. So in this case, I think that Spanger is going to win. So I think she has the power. But that's going to depend on what comes down between September to about the end of October. Because like I said, the indications are that there might be some type of military intervention in the state is more than I would like to see. And if that occurs, it could mean that it's going to shift the results in the governor race. So in this case, right now, Democrat has the power. Let's take a look at New Jersey. New Jersey here looks, just in general, and this is without looking at who's going to win, it looks like they are going to be doing well, moving up into more, I don't want to call them progressive reforms, because it's not necessarily identified just with the Democrats. It could be GOP progressive reforms according to their party. So it looks like New Jersey itself is going to move into the next year with a renewed confidence. So that's good, no matter who they're picking here. Now, One note is that in January, it looks like there may be a contested election. So expect that the loser is going to want to sort of relook at it. And as I noted, New Jersey looks like they're going to move ahead with having a lot of progressive reforms that can do just a lot of, good things to the people. So that's positive for New Jersey. So New Jersey has the power here. Now, it looks like at the end of November, looks like it's changing how power is applied in the state, which suggests that there may be a change in leadership. And that may be why there's going to be some type of seismic upheaval in the type of things that they're providing to the people. Now, I did look at the Democratic platform just briefly, and it involves things like daycare, bringing down the cost of living. So things that really impact people. And New Jersey can be a very expensive state to live in. So that would be significant. I'm not seeing much in the GOP platform that I would say looks, progressive from the GOP side. So again, I'm not thinking that the GOP is going to take this. So when I look at New Jersey is a winner. New Jersey has power. So they've got, some good things that they can get done. Now let's take a look at the actual candidates in New Jersey. So one of the things about both the Virginia and the New Jersey races is that both of these, which are in 2025, are going to sort of lead people to sort of think about how is this going to affect 2026. Well, if the Democrats just win this and they don't have a big margin, it's not going to speak well for 2026. If the GOP win it, then that's not going to speak well for the Democrats for 2026, but it is going to speak well for the GOP. If the Democrats win it with the big margin, that'll speak well for the Democrats going into 2026. So in this case, if the Democrats just win, it's not really going to say much of anything. They have to win with big margins, showing that people are coming out for their policies. Now, right now, what I get from the GOP candidate is just a lot of dissatisfaction. He may feel that it's not going well. He did run once before, I think it was in 2021, and he came close. But I think this year, it's just a different race. Now, one of the things with his candidacy is that I'm seeing that he still has outdated ideas. And he keeps repeating these. So when you have ideas that don't work, using the same ideas, why would you expect different results? So this is a case in point where he could actually change some of his platform, maybe become a little bit more progressive, and actually, change that cycle of failure. In effect, he wouldn't be playing the same game. But by playing the same type of game, in effect, it's destabilizing. So people are not going to be listening to the same old stuff. Meanwhile, what we have is the Democratic candidate may be too optimistic. So she needs to rein in her expectations, and she needs to be cautious about what she thinks she can expect. Now, yes, she's got some nice angles, and it could portend that she's going to have some ability to make some nice changes for the people in New Jersey and for the state itself. She could build new foundations for that state, change the way of doing things, but she needs to update her thoughts. When she's talking to people in the state and she's getting new information, she's not updating her speeches. She's not updating what she's saying. So she's got all that information stored in her head, and it's not doing any good there. She needs to recycle that information out into her speeches. So as she learns, she needs to update what she's saying. So that's a big deal. So who do I think is going to win in New Jersey? It's going to be the Democrat. But again, winning here for the Democrat isn't, wouldn't be a big deal unless she's winning by a lot. And that's what the key is here. So who's the winner? Democrat. Now that could change depending what happens in Virginia. Now let's take a look at the last one. And this is one that we did on 8/16. And this is an older and wiser Marco Rubio becoming the voice of reason. Now, I did a video on Marco Rubio a while ago, and it was actually, he had a chart that showed someone that was dealing with trying to adjust with positions that he may not have felt comfortable with. And I noted that he was going to be able at that time to sort of come into some type of acceptance. And he has gotten there. He's actually seems to have accepted where he is in an administration that is difficult for him, but he's able to move well in it and to provide a place for him to grow. So I think it was quite a surprise for a lot of people that Marco Rubio got invited to the summit with Putin and to be in the meeting. But, this allowed Trump to get a different take on things that Putin was saying. And more importantly, Rubio comes out of that meeting with more and a different dynamic in the White House. So this is a case where he was trusted enough to go into the meeting. So his statements, his standing has increased. Now, if you've noticed, or maybe it's just me, Rubio seems more grounded. And his chart shows that. His chart shows that he's more realistic now. That's a good thing. He's dealing with foreign policy. He needs to be realistic in what he can accomplish. Now, coming into the middle of September, we're going to see that he is going to be able to make some foreign policy of his own, which is good. So he's stepping in that right way. But it wasn't easy for him to get here. He actually had to resign himself to accepting the reality of his situation, which is he probably doesn't agree with a lot of what's going on, but he's willing to work on it and work within it. So he's accepting the conditions for the way he has to function. And in fact, this is giving him an ability to function while all the rules are collapsing around him. It also allows him to move ahead while he's still trying to create new rules. So he's actually in a position of power here, and he's increasing his power. This is going to be evident moving into the new year, right around the early part of 2026. And I mentioned this in some other videos. There's going to be a lot of power plays, and I think Rubio is going to be a significant part of that. Now, one note about Rubio is that I think he's shifting his stance, and this is probably because of all the work he's done with the foreign leaders, to be more diplomatic. So he seems to be more wanting to talk rather than to be aggressive right off the, starting off. And that's a good thing for Secretary of State. So who has the power here? Rubio. He's someone to watch coming up. And you may not agree with where he is or what he's doing, but he is someone that has the power. Now, we went quite a ways. We've got a lot of things going on, but I did want to clarify on the 2026. Don't expect miracles overnight. Don't expect changes overnight. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Expect more military showing up on the streets. Expect that we're going to have the GOP trying to cement their power, which means that they're going to be pulling things that are illegal. And it's going to precipitate, a counterbalance type effect from the Democrats, meaning that they have to go along with it and somehow, make sure they try and stay as even as they can. So where is some shift? We might see some shift in 2026 in the elections, enough that the House and the Senate change, because there is a decided possible shift in the national feeling in January of 2027. But it doesn't mean that everything's okay, because we still have another 2 years to the 2028 election. Hope you have a good evening, and thank you for listening. Bye now.